Second scholasticism is the period of revival of scholastic system of philosophy and theology in the 16th and 17th centuries. The scientific culture of second scholasticism surpassed its medieval source in the number of its proponents, the breadth of its scope, the analytical complexity, sense of historical and literary criticism, and the volume of editorial production, most of which remains hitherto little explored. Scotism and Thomism. Unlike the first, i.e., medieval scholasticism, a typical feature of second scholasticism was the development of schools of thought, developing the intellectual heritage of their teacher. Two schools survived from earlier phases of scholasticism, Scotism and Thomism. The Scotists, mostly belonging to the various branches of the Franciscan order, include the Italians Antonius Trombetta, Bartolomeo Mastri, Bonaventura Belletuse, the Frenchman Claude Frasson, the Irish emigrants Luc Wadding, Jean Punch, and Hugh Corwell, and the Germans Bernhard Sanig and Crescentius Crispa. The Thomists were usually but not exclusively represented by the Iberians in the Dominican and the Carmelite orders. They include Thomas Cajetan, Domingo de Soto, Domingo Banez, Franciscus Ferrariensis, the Complutenses, João Poinsot and others. Jesuit scholasticism. The intellectual influence of second scholasticism was augmented by the establishment of the Society of Jesus by Ignatius Loyola, per approval of Pope Paul III. The Jesuits are considered a third school of second scholasticism, although this refers more to the common style of academic work rather than to some common doctrine. The important figures include Pedro da Fonseca, Antonio Rubio, the Conumbricenses, Robert Bellarmine, Francisco Suarez, Gabriel Vasquez, Pedro Hurtado de Mendoza, Rodrigo Araja, and many others. There were also many independent thinkers like Sebastian Izquierdo, Joan Caramul Wylockovich, Kenelm Digby, Raphael Aversa, etc. Decline and legacy. The golden age of second scholasticism was the first decades of the 17th century, at which time it was still largely in control of university curricula in philosophy, but second scholasticism started to decline under the attacks of philosophers writing in vernacular languages, such as Descartes, Pascal and Locke, and from the competition from more experimental and mathematical ways of doing science promoted by the scientific revolution. It was largely dormant from the onset of Enlightenment in the end of the 17th century, although scholastics such as Suarez remained influential for a long period. In some Iberian universities the scholastic culture remained vivid well into the 19th century, providing background for the birth of neo-scholasticism. Interest in the thought of the late scholastics has been recently revived by the journal Studia Neo-Aristotelica. Bibliography. Joseph Bordat and Johanna Mbabukis, Late Scholasticism, in Oxford International Encyclopedia of Legal History. New York 2009. James Franklin, Science by Conceptual Analysis. The Genius of the Late Scholastics, Studia Neo-Aristotelica 9, 3-24. J. Gordley, The Philosophical Origins of Modern Contract Doctrine, Clarendon Press, Oxford 1991, ch. 3. P. Grossi, La seconda scolastica nella formazione del diritto privato moderno, Geoffrey, Milan, 1973. Daniel D. Novotny, In Defense of Baroque Scholasticism, Studia Neo-Aristotelica 6, 209-233. Daniel D. Novotny, Ens Rationis from Suarez to Caramul, A Study in Scholasticism of the Baroque Era, New York, Fordham University Press, 2013.